Welcome to Cut the Crop, keeping you in the know about everything you grow. Researchers, growers and other interesting folk delivering insights and information on topics ranging from agronomy to profitability. Brought to you by the Foundation for Arable Research.
Hello and welcome. My name's Alison Stewart and I'm your host for this episode of Cut the Crop. And today I'm talking to our Growers Leading Change National Coordinator, Erica Callaghan. Welcome, Erica.
Thanks, Alison.
Now, I think the last time we were talking, you just set up your first lot of arable growth groups. So it would be a really good opportunity to just find out how they're going and see whether, in fact, you've been able to set up some new growth groups.
Great, thank you. Yeah, so we have got our first three groups up and running. So that's one in South Canterbury focusing on grass weed control, and they have had their first session. We've even had a session with some expert support doing a video conference over lunchtime with those growers as well, so that we can start learning from some of the techniques that Australian growers are using in their grass weed management. So yeah, that went really well. And then we'll be working with Ag Research in their National Herbicide Resistance Program to get some learnings from that as well coming up. So yeah, that group's progressing well.
So that's, how many are in that group again?
We've got 10 farming businesses involved, but we've got a few that are owner and managers come along, also fathers and sons come along. So yeah, I think we're about 14 members of that group.
Yeah. And so I guess the key thing is that even though that's a group of 10 growers or whatever, the learnings from that group will get sort of, distributed more widely.
Yes, definitely. Yeah. So at the moment, yeah, we've kind of got our closed group, I suppose, that we have those immediate discussions with. But yeah, it's definitely a topic there's a lot of interest around. So we're able to hopefully either build resources, or whether it's through podcasts or newsletters, we'll be able to get some of those learnings out to the wider industry and help them access resources.
Yep. So that's one
group up and running. We've got a group in just out of Ashburton, a group of young growers there that are focusing on soil quality. So we had a session with our senior researcher, Dirk Wallace, came and helped us start to identify the what soil quality attributes we can look at and how we can manage them within an arable system. So we were completing a mini VSA out in the field, starting to kind of relate that back to their on-farm practices and how they can do that every day. Well, not every day, but in the everyday farm practice. And we also designed an on-farm tryout with that group. So they're looking at 4 different crop establishment practices and then the impact that that's going to have on soil quality. So we know that long term, like from the Chertsey trial sites, that it takes a long time to have like an impact on soil carbon, but we wanted to see what are some of the things that we might see over a year or a couple of years, and if there's any way that might impact their management decisions on farms. So
are they all doing it individually on their own farm, or is this just like one person is doing it on their farm and everyone's then using that as a little bit of a demo?
So it was a really good discussion that we kind of had as a group as to work out what wanted to happen. So we ended up landing on it's going to happen on 2 properties, so one under irrigation and one under dry land, and then using minimum till, conventional ploughing, direct drilling and strip till. That covers kind of the practices that would happen across the whole group's farm. So then they can start to assess what might happen. And the properties that they're on are a fairly standard sort of soil that most of the growers would have in their situation in that group.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's going really well. So yeah, well, we're starting the in paddock tests, like the pre-tests this week, and then we'll get the cultivators in the paddock and see how it goes later in the year.
Excellent. So what's number 3?
Number 3 is our national group. So this one's a little bit different because we're working with growers right across the country. So they're all arable businesses that have diversified into a value ag component of their business, and they are working together kind of more on business tools rather than necessarily agronomic agronomic solutions. Being spread across the country, it's a lot harder for us to get together. So they've had one session over Zoom for them to be able to kind of set the rules of what they're wanting to achieve, how they're going to interact together. And then after the FAR conference in June, we're actually going to have our first face-to-face session, set up the plan for the year, and start with a bit of a session out at Māori Skur's mill.
Yeah. So if you were a grower and you're just hearing about these groups, are there opportunities for growers to join any of these groups, or are you keeping it pretty tight to the initial groups in the first instance?
Yeah. So the groups that are established, I guess they're full essentially, but it doesn't mean that groups of similar topics can't be established or that we can't get the learnings from those groups wider. So we definitely want to hear about it if there's interest around it, or it may be in a slightly different area, and then we can help pull a group of growers together so that we can establish a group elsewhere. So we're kind of hitting our targets for the first year of the groups that we're wanting to set up, but we've got plenty of funding still available to be able to set more groups up around the country.
Yeah, and I think that's really important for growers to recognise that, we haven't set up little elite clubs.
No, definitely not.
This is for everyone.
Yeah.
And that if people are really interested, as you say, like if a group in the North Island wanted to sort of look at weed management, we would be quite happy to support them to sort of come together and explore opportunities there.
And we've had some farmers as well that aren't wanting to be part of a group at this stage but are really interested in the learning. So we've got them on our database and we can email out fact sheets or some of the information that comes from it. The groups do all kind of have quite a bit of trust built within them. We've set them all up so that the farmers are working in within kind of their own set of rules. So most of the groups have kind of set up Chatham House rules or a set of rules where the wider learnings can be shared, but their own farm information's protected so that they're wanting to share and learn as much as they can, but know that they're trusted within the group.
Yeah. So any other groups coming along?
Yes. Yep. So we've got 4 more groups that we have just approved. So we have got one in the Manawatu, and they're looking at how they can use crop establishment to improve the environmental footprint. So I'm wanting to understand kind of the implications of different establishment techniques throughout the year, and then the impact on that environmentally and profitably. We've got one in the Hawke's Bay, and they've had some challenges with their cereal crops over the last couple of years, or are potentially wanting to look at other ways that they can get more value out of their cereal. So that's kind of like a cereal optimization, I suppose, whether it might be looking at spray-free options for cereals or selection of cultivar to make sure they're hitting the contract targets. That's part of that group. And then we've got 2 groups established in Southland. So it was a bit different the process we went through for setting up these. We had lots of growers that wanted to be involved, but we didn't necessarily have really strong topics coming through. So we actually held an open meeting down in Southland and invited growers along to share their ideas. And from that, we've got 2 groups established. So one group is really around future-proofing profit. So whether that's system efficiencies or those sorts of things, it's all kind of around making sure that the arable systems can remain profitable in the future. So it might be livestock or other things working in with their main crops. And then the second group is focusing on crop rotations and kind of the agronomic decisions they're making in that. So knowing that the gross margin of one crop, how that might work in with the decisions as to why they use that to benefit the soil or those sorts of things as well.
Okay. Gosh. So you've actually met your target for the year, because it was 7, wasn't it? Growth groups that we had to identify.
Yes.
So you'll be feeling quite good.
Yes, it's really good. We're still really wanting to hit up in the top half of the North Island. So we've got some conversations with some growers underway up there. But we do really want to make sure we've got a good spread across the country. We're working with growers right across. Mm-hmm. Ideally we want one to go up in the Waikato or Northland regions, and we're working with some growers. But that's that's the next one to tick off.
So if growers wanted to know a little bit about each of these growth groups, is there a place that they can go to on the FAR website to find out more about them?
Yes, so Growers Leading Change has its own tab on the website. At the moment, it's really just an introduction to the program, what arable growth groups look like, how you can contact us. Eventually, we will have some of the learnings from these groups. So if there was a fact sheet to come out or some learnings, or if one of the groups are wanting to have an on-farm field day to share those learnings wider, we'll be promoting that all through there. So yeah, definitely check it out.
Yeah, excellent. So obviously that's not all that you guys are doing. I mean, you've got your team. And so what are the range of other things that you've been doing in addition to, going out and trying to set up these particular groups?
Well, a big focus for us at the moment is we are doing a baseline survey for the arable sector. So this has been quite a big undertaking, but we think it's really important, to manage how well and the impact that Growers Leading Change is having across the sector, but also to help get some numbers and facts around how the sector's feeling. So we've done a quantified survey, which we've sent out to 500 growers across the country. And we're also having some face-to-face conversations with growers to get a bit more qualified viewpoints as well. So, yeah. So
is this a health and well-being survey?
It's a real mix. So some of it is around how growers are feeling about the environmental policy changes. Yeah. So if they understand what good management practices are, how they believe they might impact their businesses, where they feel that arable as a business is viewed by regulators and markets, the confidence they have in the markets, the arable markets, and where they see their business going in the future, if they have confidence for succession within that and those sorts of things as well. So,
it is quite broad.
Yes, it is.
Okay. Yeah. So when will you be pulling together the results of that survey?
Yeah, we're just in the final stages of that now. So chasing up a few last surveys. So if you've got one there sitting on the kitchen table, it would be great if we could get that back, because these numbers will really help us be able to go to feds or go to the FAR board and say, these are actually the challenges that the arable farmers are facing, or this is where the confidence is sitting. Can we help do something about it, or, shout what's going really well about it in the arable sector as well. So, yeah, we're definitely wanting to get that tidied up quite soon, because, then later on at the end of the project, we'll be doing the same process.
And one would hope that there's an increase in confidence or an increase in well-being.
Yeah.
So what other things have you been up to?
We are supporting the wider FAR business and production-wise training as well. So that's a big part that links in with our mobile resource centre, making sure that we can get FAR research and resources out to the regions. So, that's coming up over the next couple of weeks. And we've also starting to investigate or set up processes around Pathfinder Farms as well. So that is going to be 4 properties over the country that we're going to work with them through a change in systems, or a change in what they're wanting to do within the arable system. So whether it's setting up a monitoring system to see the success of it, or helping them explore different options to help improve the arable sector, or the options that growers have around that.
Yeah, I mean, that's a little bit more challenging, isn't it? Because you're looking at some sort of, system change, which is not quite, the same as, going out and trying a few little sort of tweaking here and there.
Yeah.
So what's the time frame for being able to identify and get these Pathfinder farms up and running?
Yeah, so this part of the project runs slightly longer. So for most of Growers Leading Change, we're kind of focusing on the next 3 years. Well, I guess 2.5 years from now. We've been going for a few months now. Whereas the Pathfinder farms, we know that for the first few years of this, it's going to be kind of understanding the systems. And then it might be 3 to 5 years that we actually start to see success or the change within that. So at the moment, our target is to identify the first 2 properties that we're going to work with by September, and then we will start working with them over that next year to understand the system change, or put some measures in place for success, what that might look like, and working with them. And then that will continue over the next 3 to 5 years, I suppose, for that process. But it really is going to be working with a farmer and understanding what that change is, and then kind of shaping that Pathfinder Farm to match what the project and that farmer are wanting to achieve.
Yeah. So, anything else that you want to sort of tell us about the progress on growers leading change?
I think it's just, we kind of talked about it a lot at the start. It's great for us to have that first year's groups formally established.
Because, of course, next year there's another 7.
Yes.
People, sitting there, listeners sitting there, if they're remotely interested, they should be contacting you now for things that they might want to set up next year.
Yeah, and ideally, I'd love to see the group set up earlier in the year. We've got quite a pool of money sitting there to help pull in experts, or for us to set up on-farm tryouts. And just the way it kind of fell with the timing of setting up our project this year, it's been really hard for us to set up good on-farm tryouts or be able to make decisions, because it was all kind of happening when people were wanting to get crops in.
That's
so
right.
The
earlier timing of when the project started, it wasn't the best time, but okay. So a key sort of request is that growers that are thinking that they might want to get involved in something like this next year should be talking to you guys now.
Yes, definitely.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, great. Thank you very much, Erica.
No worries,
and
thank you.
Thank you very much, listeners. Have a great day on the farm.
Thanks for tuning in to Cut the Crop, presented to you by FAR. If you'd like to know more about any of the topics discussed or have any suggestions for future topics, go to www.cutthecrop.co.nz.